Good morning, everyone. This is Scott Yours, and we're going to do another episode of the Wolf and the Neural Network. Today, we're going to talk about the day I found these signals from radio transmitters. For reference, this can be found around January 31st, 2021, in the alpha version and in the Waking from a Dream version. The relationship with the property, very close to my house, like I can see it, the house. The circumstances, the fact that I found it around the time that McNeil had left office and that McCoy had also left Irving Shipbuilding. So, as you can see, I talked about mail going missing from my mailbox because the ESDC said they had sent it. But then we talked about the wolves howling in Nova Scotia, and this was around the 15th of September, 2020. On the information relating to EMIC Contract 1, my GPS location being set to Stillwater, and then EMIC Contract number 2 and the wolves howling can be really found, very detailed outlined in episode number 4, Wolves in Nova Scotia, Nope, EMIC Military, Cambridge Analytica, Psychological Warfare, TAA. Generally episode 4 in case the title changes. And when you check, if you go back and look at one of my videos, you can see that I was talking about my GPS location being set to Stillwater, Nova Scotia, and then associating that property with these EMIC contracts. And then that's associated with these wolves howling, and there's an article by David Pudge-Lees in regards to this. But then, and please note, I didn't find this out until much, much later, okay? Like, I mean, mid-2022. So all this stuff happened in 2021. I knew something weird was going on, right? And now, on September 14th, boom, you got this house, the status changing. And then, on the same date, well, I think it's one day before Stephen McNeil and Kevin McCoy kind of leave office, the house goes into, it's basically sold. And at that time, I bought a cell repeater, because we don't get good cell service out here. Bell literally lies about the service that you get out here. It's fucking pathetic, right? People haven't got cell service out here for years and years and years. You have to put your phone up in a window and it might work. Might. So anyways, I bought a radio, or repeater, and I was setting it up. And in the process of doing that, I had to download an application called LTE Discovery. And what this does is it just basically, when it connects to a radio, it just points to it. Right? This is a well-known application. It has nothing to do with me. I didn't develop a custom app. I wasn't wearing a tinfoil hat getting a fucking signal. I had no fucking idea. So, I'm trying to set this up, and it's locking onto a signal just behind my house. And somebody was there with me, and they're like, this is weird. I'm like, yeah, this is weird. So I come in and I literally shut the entire power off to my house because I'm like trying to find out why it keeps connecting to this. It wasn't like it just smelled it. It connected to it, right? And even when I shut all the power off to the house, it's still connected to it. And it wasn't moving around. I rebooted my phone. It kept showing that exact location. And I could walk around it and it wouldn't change. So what I did, and the person that was with me got really freaked out by it. I kind of laughed about it. I was like, well, there's nothing I can do. And they were like, no, I'm leaving. And they're like, most people would burn the forest down right now. So I have this old yellow house on my property, and I was like, okay, well, since I'm only getting one bar and stuff, I know, like, if I go over and stand behind that house, it's definitely going to block the line of sight. Like, there's no way I'm only getting one bar. And that bar's sketchy. So I went over and stood behind this old yellow house. Sure enough, everything went dead. And then I held it up in the air, and I got service. And now it showed about between 50 and 100 feet behind my neighbor's house. Now, when you look at the association with these houses, the dates match almost perfectly. And if you jump forward a little bit, when I was going to bring this out in about September 2021, I had a bunch of evidence. I went down to talk to my aunt about it, and as I walked home, I was talking to my neighbor just across the road, and there was a guy standing down at the bottom of that drive, and he was smoking a cigarette hard. And he kept looking over at me and walking back and forth. And I was like, okay, whatever, right? I'm not a paranoid person. I'm just like, that's interesting. Never seen that fella. And so I said, I'm going to go talk to him, see who he is, right? And as I start to walk towards him, he takes the cigarette, throws it down, starts walking back into the houses. And he kept looking up at that house where my cousin lived. So, I mean, you could say, okay, Scott, it was maybe this or that, and that's a completely fair argument, but it did happen. So, now, guess who doesn't live there anymore? But it gets even worse than that, because we were swimming, and we caught them taking a bunch of pictures of it. And you could say they were maybe taking pictures of the sites. They like to see people swimming in the ocean. Completely fair argument. We went for a swim at night, and I looked up, and I seen Buddy looking at me through something. And when I seen him, he seen me see him, and he went whoop, and hit it. Like, it was very, 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 very specific. And guess who doesn't live there anymore? So that's not somebody being crazy or anything like that. This is a well-known application for your phone that was consistently giving me that signal. I mean, rebooting my phone, same thing. Shutting the power off in my house, same thing. That cell repeater wasn't going or anything like that. Same thing. While it's important to note that I found this radio transmitter roughly 15 feet from where I reported finding a rope in a tree, like a noose just hanging there, that I did not notice before, and that just appeared after all this started happening. And so you can see how these events with the EMIC catcher finding the signal, and then you can see the events with the property views, and these massive spikes in the property views of them watching my reason to believe something is going on, right? Like where they're watching my household. And this was consistent throughout. And once they seem to have noticed that I noticed that they were watching, then they tried to do this balancing 60 thing where you think you can hide the connections. But I'm out here in ECOM. I shouldn't even really be getting one view a day. You can't hide it. Right? So take a look at the property views yourself. Look at the spikes. I can't make that up. And I watched them as I sent emails, and they didn't spike every time, which means they were intelligent spikes, which means they knew the difference between sending multiple emails and single emails. So, it's food for thought. What that most likely could have been was what's called an IMSI catcher, and what people will do is they'll scrape the identifier. I think what we're talking about is an IMSI catcher. Basically, you know, it allows them to like clone your SIM card in your phone. Or the idea of it, and be able to act as a man in the middle to be able to see information coming or going. And you'll see why that's so concerning, because my GPS location was showing set to a house, and you need to be into somebody's phone to change their GPS location like that. Right? So this is consistent with that, but it'll also be consistent with spyware. And this will be, we can jump forward to August, between the 2nd, when I got arrested, and the August 12th of 2022, when I was falsely arrested by HRP and tortured by Nova Scotia Health Authority, that RCMP themselves were doing a public inquiry into their use of spyware that they didn't inform the public about. Where the privacy commissioner said, I didn't know that encryption was broken and all this stuff. He knew. He just didn't do anything about it and didn't want to face it. Right? But you'll see that I was aware at the time, and that's partly why I had to walk down to Halifax Regional Police, and that will be covered in another episode. Right? So it shows this high level of situational awareness by me, where I did go down to HRP to do the right thing, and I went down there calm, cool, and collected because I knew something really bad was happening. HRP absolutely 100,000,000% lied in their police report. And why are they using these tools against Scott Yours? Just some bro from Meekum? Because they needed to cover up for what they did. Right? Go back to November 19th, 2019. How did they know my letter was coming? All those coincidences? Listen, they use these tools as mass surveillance against Canadians all the time for whatever they need to protect the right kind of white. That's exactly what this is. Do you think they did that to JDIrving? Do you think they did that to JDIrving? No, because they're the right kind of white. Look at them covering up for all these other people. And this is mass surveillance, guys, because here's what they'll do. They'll use these tools against everybody who is not the right kinds of white. And there are 40 million people in Canada right now, right? So that means up to 40 million people, but not the right kind of white. right? They targeted me so they could terrorize me, so they could frame me, so they could go after my family. And then look what these monsters did. Right up to the night my mother died. Lying to the police, not telling them about this, having them come here and terrorize me as I've got blisters on my feet walking to see my mother. Because these people are terrorists, right? That's what they use this software for themselves, for them to get ahead, right? These are not good people. You should never trust the fucking police. These are a bunch of corrupt cops who can't face who and what they really are when you strip away their guns, their money, and their blind authority. Because here they are protecting JDIrving, they're protecting Postmedia, they're protecting Torstar, they're protecting the right kinds of white. That's what Justin's prerogative is as Prime Minister. Right? What could I have ever done to warrant that level of intrusion into my life? That's right. So then if I didn't do it, they must have did it. So what are the ramifications for them? If I'm getting arrested, I'm being terrorized, children are being terrorized, then what's the ramifications for them? They get pats on the back and called heroes. Get protection and $1.5 billion as graduation presents. So don't anybody tell me that they're not using these tools against Canadians all the time. They absolutely are. And this absolutely amounts to mass surveillance because it's everybody but them, the right kind of white. And that concludes our video today. I hope that was educational, informative, and entertaining. Thank you very much for watching and have a good day.